thank you for tuning in for Bedtime Stories. Tonight we're going to be reading one of the adventures of Jack from a collection of stories called the Jack Tales. And you probably know about Jack if you've heard the story Jack and the Beanstalk. He actually has several stories that make up what is the oldest oral storytelling tradition in the United States. And sometime in the last century, Richard Chase went around collecting all of these stories, went visiting all of the people, the storytellers in Appalachia, and collecting these stories and then retold them here in this book. So I'm going to tell you, or read to you, one of my favorite stories about Jack from when I was growing up. The title of this story is called Sop Doll. Said one time Jack started out to hunt him up a job of work. He pulled out and traveled on until he got to another settlement. Ran across a feller who told him there was a man there that wanted to hire some work done. So he told Jack where the man's house was at, and Jack went over there, stopped by the gate and hollered, "Hello!" The man came out, asked Jack what he did want, so Jack told him. The man told Jack to come on in, asked him what his name was, and says, "Well, Jack, I've got a mill on the water course down the road a piece, but I got no time to run it. I've hired several men to grind down there, but the very first night something has always killed them. Looked like it was some kind of poison. Now I thought I'd tell you, Jack, so you'd know all about it before you took the job." "Well," says Jack, "if you don't care, we might walk down there and look the mill over." So they went on down to the mill. It was an old log house with a fireplace, and everything fixed for whoever tended the mill to cook and sleep down there. There were 12 little windows rather high up in the walls, had no windows light in them. Jack looked it over right good and says, "Bedad, I believe I might take the job." The man says, "All right, Jack, I see you're no coward. Now I'll give you what you make and give you your rations too. I'll go back to the house and get you some meat and a meal for your supper, and you start in a grinding as soon as anybody comes." Well, when word got out that the mill was opened up again, lots of customers started coming in, and Jack had to grind right on until it was plumb dark. Finally, got last turn ground out and shut down the mill. He hadn't no more got the water turned off the mill race when here come an old man on a sorry-looking mule. Got off and walked in the mill with a poke of corn on his shoulder. He had a long gray beard, and he was one-eyed. "Howdy do, Jack," he says. "How you getting on?" "All right, I guess," says Jack. "I hope you're well." "About like common," says the old man. Then Jack looked at him and says, "I don't believe I ever saw you before." "No," says the old man. "I'm a stranger." "Well, how in the world did you know my name?" asked Jack. "Oh, I knowed ye time I saw ye," the old man says. "I've come a long way today, Jack. I'm wondering, could you grind my corn for me? I couldn't get here no sooner." "Why, sure," says Jack. "You wait here a minute and I'll go turn the water back on again." So Jack started up the mill and ground the stranger's corn for him, shut the mill down, and when he got back, the old man says to him, "Jack, you're the first one that's ever done me right at this mill, and I'm going to give ye a present." So the old man reached in his big coat and took out a long silver knife and handed it to Jack. Jack thanked the old man and left. Then Jack built him up a fire in the fireplace and got out the skillet. Now Jack didn't have no lamp, but the fire gave out much light, and it happened the moon was shining in all 12 of them windows. Made it pretty near bright as day. So Jack was cutting up his meat with that silver knife when all at once it got thick dark in there. Jack looked up, and there in every one of them little windows sat a big black cat. They were all looking right at Jack with their eyes just a shining. Well, Jack wasn't scared much. He went on and put his meat in the skillet, set it on the fire, and stooped down to turn it with his knife. Paid no attention to them cats. But just about the time his meat begun to fry, Jack heard one cat light down on the floor. He went on a cooking, and next thing you know, there was a big black cat a-setting right up in the fireplace with him. Jack went to turn the meat over, and that cat stuck out its paw toward the skillet and says, "Sop Doll." Jack reached out right quick with his knife and says, "You better not sop your doll in my meat or I'll cut it right off." The old cat jerked its foot back and sat there a while. The other cats stirred around a little, stayed on up in the windows. Then Jack saw that big cat reach for his skillet again and says, "Sop Doll." And Jack came at it with a knife. "I done told you not to sop your doll in there. You try it one more time now, and I'll sure whack it off." The cat drawed back and sat there, switching its tail. The mother cat stirred a little, and one or two of them sort of meowed. Then the cat fopped its foot right smack in Jack's gravy and says, "Sop Doll." Jack came down with his knife right quick and cut that cat's paw plumb off. The old cat jumped out for the window, and all 12 of them cats went, "Wow!" and were gone from there before Jack could turn and look. Well, Jack went to throw the meat in the fire, and instead of a cat's paw, it was a woman's hand laying there in the skillet. Had a ring on the finger even. Jack took the hand out and wrapped it up in some paper, put it up on the fireboard. Then he washed and scoured his skillet, cooked some meat and pone of bread, got done eating and went to bed. The next morning, the man that owned the mill got up real early and says, "Old lady, you better get up and cook me some breakfast. I reckon I'll have to make arrangements about burying that boy today." His old lady sort of scourged around in bed and said she was sick and couldn't get up. So the man fixed himself some breakfast and pulled on down to the mill. And there was Jack, just a grinding right on. The man got in where Jack was and hollered to him and says, "Well, I wasn't expecting to see you alive today, Jack. Thought I'd be burying you." Jack hollered back at him and says, "Well, it's a good thing you didn't have to do that." The man hollered down back in Jack's ear, "When you get that turn ground out, shut down the mill. I gotta talk to you right now." So directly Jack went and pulled up the water gate so the mill's racket would stop and him and the man could talk. Says, "Now, Jack, you tell me what happened last night." Jack related to him all about them black cats, and he told about the old man giving him that silver knife. The man says, "I see through the whole thing now. It's a witch gang. They wanted to have their lodge meeting here in the mill, and when that cat sopped in the grease, she poisoned it some way or somehow." Jack said he had an idea that's how it was. Said that was why he scoured the skillet. The man said it was a good thing he'd done that. Then Jack told him about the cat's paw turning into a woman's hand. "You might not believe that, but I've got it right here to show you." Got the woman's hand and unwrapped it. The man took it, looked it over, looked on the ring on it and says, "Now I declare, well, I'd never have thought it. Now, Jack, you lock the mill up and come on back home with me. We got to tend to this right now. It's a good thing that knife was made out of silver. You can't hurt a witch with a knife or even a bullet unless it's silver." So they went back to the house, and the man's old woman was still in bed. He asked her if she felt any better. She said no. Said she'd not get up for a little while longer. So the man says to her, "You want me to send for the doctor?" She said no. said for him to send for some of the neighbor women. He asked her what women folk she wanted to come, and she named out 11 women in the settlement. So the man sent word for him, and before any of them got there, he says to his wife, "Let me see your hand." The woman sort of twisted around and poked out her left hand. "No," says the old man, "it's your right hand I want to see." So she twisted around and poked out her left hand again. Then he just reached over and pulled out her arm, and there was no hand on it. Well, the women folks came readily as soon as they got word. And the man says to Jack, "I've been suspecting my old woman was mixed up with that gang of witches, but I'd never lowered she was the head of it." Jack says, "Oh, surely not." Man says, "Yes, I knew it was her hand the time I saw the ring on it." Well, when the last of them 11 women got it in with his old lady, the man shut the door on them and fired the house. Them 12 witches started cracking and a-popping, and every one of them was burnt plumb up. So Jack made an end of the witch gang in that settlement, and the man never did have no more trouble about his mill. The end. Thank you for listening. That was a Jack tale, collected and retold by Richard Chase. I hope you have a wonderful day.